Advertisements, probably one of the most effective ways companies get to their customers. Some are an instant hit, while most just end up going under the radar. Then, there's the ones that people call controversial. You see, these are the ads that might go to extreme lengths to stand out, and most of the time they just don't work out. And in 2019, Gillette caught itself off guard.
Super smooth strip for the best a man can get.
Gillette's probably a household name in every middle-class home at this point. They've been responsible for creating high-quality shaving goods at reasonable prices and are notorious for incredible razor and blade sets like their Mach 3 lineup. During 2019, it's safe to say a lot was going on. Talks about toxic masculinity were on an exponential rise, and people wanted to support a world where men were seen as open and helpful rather than isolated and total jerks. Tarana Burke's Me Too movement, which was founded in 2006, also saw a rise in traction as people wanted to support victims of sexual violence, a trait associated with toxic masculinity. In short, people were trying to change the stereotype of men to become more equal with women while still having respect. And Gillette wanted to have a say in that. Watch their ad from 2019 right here, titled The Best a Man Can Be. What really went wrong?
Bullying.
The Me Too movement against sexual harassment.
Masculinity.
Is this the best a man can get? Is it?
Bullying, a problem
We can't hide from it.
Sexual harassment is taking over.
It's been going on far too long. We can't laugh it off.
Who's the daddy?
What I actually think she's trying to say.
Making the same old excuses.
Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys. Boys will be boys.
But something finally changed.
Allegations regarding sexual assault and sexual harassment.
But she says it's
And there will be no going back. Because we believe in the best in men.
Men need to hold other men accountable.
Smile, sweetie. Come on.
To say the right thing. To act the right way.
Not cool. Not cool.
Some already are. In ways big
Yo, men.
and small.
I am strong.
But some is not enough.
Is that how we treat each other, okay? Okay.
Because the boys watching today will be the men of tomorrow.
Now, throughout this ad, Gillette's trying to keep their tone serious, considering the topic, using phrases like, "Is this the best a man can get?" or "We can't laugh it off" with dramatic music. But they also keep the tone hopeful in the end for a sense of a better future with a more upbeat soundtrack. Much like the thoughts of most people at the time, their advertisement was purposed in trying to challenge those concepts of toxic masculinity and portray them as issues in modern society. They're trying to charge men to hold each other accountable of their own actions and those around them, while also just telling them a best a man can be is a man who wants nothing more than a good world for everyone. That type of message really hits well with two different audiences, the male and female community. The male community makes huge sense considering men are Gillette's biggest demographic of customers. Men will be encouraged to maybe observe their own actions. Meanwhile, for women, considering the ad shows women as victims of toxic masculinity through certain behaviors, Gillette could target this ad as a way of saying, hey, we think toxic masculinity is a serious issue, and we want to make sure victims of it are heard or supported. And not to mention, Gillette play really heavily into the topic of toxic masculinity. Visual choices like the bully running in on the mother and son hugging it out while being surrounded by mean text symbolizes that no matter how much support someone could get from close people, the actions of others still find a way into their consciousness. It could also just be another way of saying masculinity is aggressive and often overlooks others. At the same time, the men behind the barbecue saying boys will be boys plays into a common stereotype of masculinity that men are often reserved and try to get away from problems. And the whole thing about men acting all sexual with women, that definitely falls into a common stereotype of masculinity or toxic masculinity that men just cared about the physical appearance of their opposite gender. But in the end, their choice of men behaving in a way that's more acceptable, such as the dad helping the bullied kid, stands as showing how letting go of toxic masculinity can lead to respect, support, and the proper behavior of future generations. And remember the music? Gillette has the initial stages of the ad sounding not necessarily sad, but rather rapid pace to highlight their target issue. Later in the ad, the use of slightly slower and more charged soundtrack helps to make the ideal image of masculinity seem more perfect. Most of this appeals to our emotions, or rather what you call pathos. It gets the audience to feel troubled by the associated behaviors of toxic masculinity, and then gets them to feel at peace with what can happen in the future should less men behave in such a way. At the end of the day, the root problem itself is mental, so an ad targeting the mind should help. You could also say Gillette's own reputation as a brand comes to play here, which would be ethos. Gillette could hold credibility in this situation considering the fact that their products are generally focused towards a male audience. This gives them a right to discuss masculinity with their audience, and considering their positive reputation, some might be willing to consider what Gillette has to say on the topic. There's some logical elements, or rather logos, in this situation near the end as well, if you think about it. The ad makes a logical connection, arguing that if the common behaviors of men are reshaped, better role models will be created for future generations. This reinforces positive change. In our world today, a concept like this is seen as general common sense, and it can eventually be agreed upon by a popular majority. Overall, Gillette saw an exigence to support the idea that a man should be more accepting of social norms that are considered more acceptable in the current era, while also supporting people who suffered in the past in a variety of ways. Topics of masculinity were rising to prominence and required further attention, or took further attention away from the public. At the time, the ad made logical sense, so one has to think, why the flop? Some say the portrayal of men was overly aggressive. After all, not exactly every man behaved like that, and it kind of made them all look like criminals. Even with its strong visuals, many say the ad's bashing of men made the several overall solutions seem presented in a less subtle manner. That makes the ad seem much less encouraging and more like just an overall attack. So I guess you could say that though the ad might have had good intentions, it wasn't exactly perfect. Gillette might have faced massive issues, but it was something that needed to happen to show what they believed in. And that is my controversial ad.